There is a moment that happens in almost every home, every single day. You walk through the front door, and before the door has even fully closed, before your bag has touched the floor, before your shoes are off, your dog is already there. Not running toward you in a frenzy, not barking, just standing at the precise threshold between the hallway and the room, completely still, nose lifted slightly into the air, eyes tracking your every micro-movement, body oriented toward you, with a focused, almost reverent attention that most people walk right past without ever noticing. You smile, maybe say hello, maybe reach down for a quick pat on the head, and then you move on with your evening, and your dog watches you go. What you just witnessed in that moment was not excitement. It was not neediness. It was not a trained greeting behavior. What your dog was doing in those few seconds involves one of the most neurologically sophisticated acts any mammal on Earth is quark, and the part that will genuinely change the way you see your dog forever. You are the only reason that ability exists at all. Here is what most people believe is happening in that moment. They believe their dog is happy to see them. They believe the tail, the posture, the nose lift, these are just the simple, sweet expressions of a pet that missed its owner. And while that is not entirely wrong, it is so incomplete that it might as well be. Because what your dog is actually doing when they stand at that threshold and raise their muzzle toward you is running one of the most complex biological recognition programs ever produced by 30,000 years of coevolution between two species. They are not just smelling you, they are reading yo, and the question that should genuinely stop you in your tracks is this gate. What exactly are they reading? And more crucially, what happens inside their nervous system when you either give them what they are searching for or quietly, unknowingly, withhold it? Let us begin at the beginning, not at the door, not even in your home. Let us begin inside your dog's skull, in a structure called the olfactory bulb, which in a dog occupies roughly 40 times more neural real estate, proportionally, than it does in a human brain. This is not a trivial difference. This is an entirely different relationship with reality, where you process the world primarily through vision, constructing meaning from light, color, and spatial geometry. Your dog constructs their entire map of existence from molecular information suspended in air. Every person they have ever known, every emotion you have ever carried through that door, every shift in your hormonal chemistry, every residue of fear, joy, grief, or contentment you experienced during the hours you were apart, all of it arrives encoded in the volatile organic compounds that cling to your skin, your breath, and the microscopic particles of shed epithelial cells drifting off your body as you move. Dr. Alexandra Horowitz at Barnard College's Dog Cognition Lab, who has spent decades studying the inner perceptual life of dogs, describes this capacity not merely as a superior sense of smell, but as a form of temporal olfaction, the ability to smell time itself. Your dog, standing at that threshold, is not just processing where you are. They are processing where you have been, what you felt there, and whether the version of you walking through that door right now is safe, distressed, depleted, or whole. But the olfactory bulb is only the first layer. Beneath the scent reading lies a secondary and largely misunderstood anatomical structure, called the vomeronasal organ, or Jacobson's organ, situated in the roof of the mouth and connected directly to the limbic system, the ancient, pre-rational brain that governs bonding, fear, memory, and the regulation of social behavior. Vomeronasal processing does not operate through conscious thought. It bypasses it entirely. When your dog lifts their nose and performs that slow, deliberate inhale as you enter the room, they are not deciding to analyze you. The chemical information flowing through the vomeronasal pathway triggers automatic, neurological, and hormonal responses before any cognitive interpretation has occurred. This is biology acting at the speed of instinct, and one of the primary molecules your dog's vomeronasal system is specifically calibrated to detect in you is cortisol, the primary stress hormone, along with its associated cascade of adrenaline metabolites and inflammatory markers that change the literal chemistry of your sweat, your breath, and the air around you when you are carrying psychological weight. Research published in PLOS One in 2022 by a team at Queen's University Belfast, led by Dr. Clara Wilson, demonstrated with remarkable precision that dogs can detect cortisol elevations in human breath and sweat samples with a success rate exceeding 90%. What this means in plain language is profound. Your dog knows whether you had a hard day before you have said a single word. They knew the moment you opened the door. Now we arrive at the layer that most fundamentally changes the story. Because your dog is not simply a passive reader of your emotional chemistry. They are not a biological instrument that detects your state and files the information away. They are primed, evolutionarily, neurologically, and urgently primed to respond to what they find. And the specific response they are waiting to give you is something that ethologists classify under the broader category of affiliative behavior, a cluster of proximity-seeking, body-orienting, and contact-initiating actions that in wolves and their direct ancestors served the critical function of reinforcing pack cohesion after periods of separation. When your dog stands at that threshold watching you, they are holding a reservoir of affiliative intention. They are prepared to offer you something, and what they are waiting for, what they are, in the most literal biological sense of the phrase, searching your face to receive permission for, is your gaze. The science of canine gaze behavior is one of the most illuminating fields to emerge from comparative cognition research in the last 2 decades. Studies conducted at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, including landmark work by Dr. Julianne Kaminsky and her colleagues, established that dogs, unlike wolves raised in identical conditions, evolved a specific and unique ability to follow human gaze, to use human eye direction as a source of information about the world, and to initiate mutual gaze with humans as a deliberate social act. This capacity does not exist in wolves. It does not exist in our closest primate relatives in the same form. It evolved specifically, exclusively, in the domestic dog, across the millennia of their life alongside ours. And the reason this matters beyond the purely academic is what happens inside both bodies during that mutual gaze. Research by Dr. Takafumi Kikusui at Azabu University in Japan, published in the journal Science in 2015, measured oxytocin levels, the neuropeptide commonly associated with maternal bonding, trust, and deep social attachment in both dogs and their owners before and after extended periods of mutual eye contact. The results were extraordinary. Both the dog and the human experienced significant elevations in oxytocin, not one direction, both directions simultaneously. The same hormonal loop that binds a mother to her newborn child was activated between 2 different species by nothing more than looking at each other with intention and calm. Your dog has been biologically engineered across 30 millennia to trigger your bonding neurochemistry through eye contact, and they have been waiting every single time you enter the room for you to let them. There is another dimension to this that deserves its own careful attention. Scientists studying canine facial orientation have identified a behavior called left gaze bias, the tendency of dogs, when looking at human faces, to direct their attention disproportionately toward the right side of the human face, which is processed by the left hemisphere of the human brain and most reliably reflects genuine, emotional states rather than performed or socially constructed ones. Your dog is not looking at your face in a general, unfocused way. They are reading your true emotional state with precision. They know the difference between the smile you give because you feel you should and the calm, open, genuinely present expression that means you have actually, fully arrived. And only one of those expressions gives them what they came to the threshold to find. Beyond gaze, beyond scent, beyond the vomeronasal pathway and the affiliative behavioral cascade, there exists a final and perhaps most tender layer of what your dog is waiting for. Touch. Not any touch. Not a distracted, perfunctory pat delivered while your eyes remain fixed on your phone. Deliberate, slow, sustained contact, particularly along the base of the skull, the ears, and spaces, lateral trunk, the regions most densely innervated by C-tactile afferent nerve fibers, the specialized sensory receptors that in mammals respond specifically to gentle, stroking, touch at a velocity between 1 and 10 centimeters per second, and trigger the release of endogenous opioids within seconds of activation. These are the same nerve fibers that activate during maternal grooming in primates. They exist in you too. When you stroke your dog with intention and slowness, you are not just being kind. You are activating an ancient biological comfort system that predates language, predates civilization, predates almost every other form of social bonding behavior we know. Dr. Francis McGlone at Liverpool John Moores University, one of the world's foremost researchers in affective touch, describes C-tactile afferents as the biological substrate of feeling loved. Your dog has been hoping you would reach them there since the moment you walked through the door. So let us return to that threshold. Let us return to the moment your dog stands there, muzzle lifted, eyes soft, body oriented, toward you with the full weight of 30,000 years of co-evolutionary hope. They are not simply greeting you. They are performing a neurological assessment of extraordinary sophistication. They are reading your cortisol signature, mapping your emotional residue, searching for the total gaze that will release a cascade of oxytocin in both your bodies simultaneously, waiting for fear of rep that will activate the deepest comfort circuitry either of you possesses. And all they need from you is 30 seconds. 30 seconds of genuine presence. Eyes that meet theirs with calm. Hands that slow down. A breath that you actually release. Nothing you need to purchase. Nothing you need to learn. Only the willingness to stop. To arrive fully. To give them the signal that the animal who evolved specifically to read you has been searching your face to find. There is something quietly staggering about this when you sit with it long enough. In an age of infinite complexity, of screens and noise and the relentless acceleration of everything, the most sophisticated, emotional intelligence in your home is a creature asking for nothing more than your unhurried attention. They did not choose to need you. Evolution chose it for them. Every generation of their ancestors who bonded more deeply with humans, who read human emotion more accurately, who sought and maintained eye contact with more skill, those animals survived. Their children survived. And across those thousands of years of selection, what emerged was not a dependent, simple creature. What emerged was a being whose entire neurological architecture is oriented, at its deepest level, toward you. That is not a small thing to carry. It is, in fact, one of the most extraordinary relationships in the natural world. And it begins, again, every single day, the moment you walk through the door. If this has shifted something in the way you see your dog, if it has given you a new lens for the daily moments that so easily slip past unnoticed, then this is exactly what Canine Mind and Care exists to offer. Not noise, not trends, only depth. Subscribe if this kind of understanding speaks to you, and become part of a community that takes the inner life of dogs as seriously as it deserves to be taken. And in the comments below, we would genuinely love to know, what does your dog do at the threshold when you come home? Describe it to us. Because every dog carries a slightly different version of this ancient, faithful waiting, and every version of it is worth noticing.